Hey, what's going on? And welcome to today's podcast. With us, we have Chaz, myself, Peter, Rahul, and today we're going to talk about energy. What is energy? How do you change your energy? Is it always good to be high energy? When should you be low energy? We're going to go through all of that today to help you really make sure you are the best in your delivery, your engagement, your presentations, and your speaking. So we'll go ahead and jump through this. We'll start off just by defining what energy is. And I'm going to flip this one first to Peter here. So, Peter, go ahead and just explain a little bit about what energy is and what does that mean?
I know when we talk about energy, it seems abstract, but it's not. As a leader, you're supposed to supply energy to whoever is listening to you. And this is a great distinction. When I work with a lot of executives, some of them are energy sucks, where they come into the room and they suck the energy out of the room. And some of them, they just broadcast energy into the room. You want to be the second version. You want to be broadcasting energy. And I don't know if you've heard the term powerhouse, like this person is a powerhouse or that woman is a powerhouse. That's an old expression. It just means you are an energy generating plant. You supply energy. And now in terms of how much energy you need to supply, you have to always calibrate. Like I can't come into a meeting where everybody's quiet like this and be like, hey everyone, then that's gonna shock them. That's like throwing a nuclear bomb in there. So what you want to do is just like a little bit higher energy, and then you guide them, and then you supply more and you supply more, and all of a sudden you start feeling the buzz in the meeting. And people start to enjoy your company because you're not stealing their energy, you're supplying them with energy.
I like it. I like it. Awesome. Thank you, Peter. Yes, be an energy powerhouse. Be more like a power plant, not an energy suck. I like it.
There we go.
All right, we'll go ahead and bring Rahul in coming up for this next one here. So Rahul, flipping it to you, writing on that same concept of being a powerhouse, generating energy. Can you just take that, run with it, and explain a little bit more about how you can generate energy and not suck energy from the room?
Sure, yeah. So you might notice that someone walks into a room where they start a meeting or a presentation, and if they are being a power suck, they'll come in and they'll start with really low energy. And then go, hey Chaz, so hey, how's it going? Yeah, okay. And they might be monotone. There's different things that they're doing that are going to suck the energy out of the room. Now, coming in with a little higher energy means that your gestures are going to be a little bit bigger. The amount of output you should be feeling, especially if you're not someone that uses higher energy, that you should be feeling like you're trying a little bit more, and that's okay at first. And where you really want to be doing it is in the beginning of your meetings, the beginning of your presentation, because that's where you have to differentiate yourself from everybody else in the room so that you capture them. Now, as Peter said, you don't want to come in, if everyone's at a 5, you don't want to come in at a 20, because that's way uncalibrated, and it's going to be like, oh my God, what's this guy doing? Or what's this person doing? So you want to come in a little bit more, maybe 10% more, 15% more, something where you can differentiate yourself and people can tell, okay, this person is capturing the room, they are commanding attention, and it's going to help you look more committed to what you're talking about. So that would be a higher energy. And if that's something where everyone has a set point where you come in and you maybe your natural state is a little bit lower. Some people, their natural state is higher, and we work with some of those clients to tone it down a little bit too and be able to have that variation.
I like it. Thanks, Rahul. And I appreciate you defining that as well a little bit there, of coming in with the bigger hand gestures, the more intense vocal inflection with it, and just feeling like you're pushing yourself and trying harder. I think that's a key part of it, is that sometimes when we have people in classes and we say, go ahead and push yourself harder, they just go a little bit harder. And so sometimes you may have to really push yourself to feel that change. So thanks for that, Rahul.
Yeah, that's right. I just want to add something too,
Please.
People have resistance around this because they get an immediate thing that some of you might be thinking is, oh, I want to be taken seriously. And I'm afraid that if I do this, I won't be taken seriously. I'll look like a clown or something like that. Unless you're getting feedback that you're coming across that way, if you know your natural set point is a little bit more reserved or pulled back, most likely, from our experience with all the clients we've seen, you trying a little bit harder is not going to be you looking like a clown or being not taken seriously. If anything, you probably still need to push yourself a little bit more, and it's not nearly as much energy as you think, because your stamina for using that kind of energy is just not very high yet. So you might go, oh my God, I must have been crazy in that meeting, or maybe you see a video of yourself and then later you go, oh, that wasn't high energy at all. So that's something just to be aware of. Your self-awareness will need to up your self-awareness and become aware of, okay, am I actually coming across as too crazy and all over the place? Honestly, you're probably not.
Got it. Thanks, Rahul. And Peter, I want to see what are your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I wanna piggyback on what Rahul just said. Sometimes I work with executives, and I'll be like, "Okay, let's stretch a little bit." So I want you to go to a point where your brain is telling you, "Oh my God, this is crazy," and they stretch and they go, "This is crazy for me." And I look at them, I'm like, "We still have way to go before you hit the crazy zone," and that goes with the baseline energy that some people are used to. Now, it's important to be authentic. So, what we usually advocate for is in a meeting or in a presentation, don't push too much where you cross that threshold of feeling authentic. What we advocate for is in private, when you're practicing your presentation, is to push the limits. And then what that's going to do is going to raise your baseline energy level, and you get used to that, and then that level becomes authentic, and then you push a little bit harder and then harder until you get to a point where doing something like this is no big deal at all. And for example, with me, 15 years ago, when I went from being an engineer to a national speaker, my gestures were like so reserved as a typical engineer. I'll be like, doing a gesture like this seemed like a hyperbole to me. And now it's like, whoa! And that's totally normal.
Yes,
Totally normal.
yes, absolutely. And especially on virtual today too, so many people try to stay right here because they don't want to go outside of the camera but you have room on the camera. It's okay. You can have that space with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what would you say some risks are that people may run into if they are high energy all the time with not much down and they're only up?
Yeah, up. So if you cross too much of a threshold and you're way above your audience, then you're gonna lose rapport. When you lose rapport, you're gonna lose credibility. So you don't want to be too much. So if you're speaking to your engineering team as a VP of engineering or a CTO, you want to be cognizant of that. You don't want to be like ungrounded. So it's good to be grounded, and then you supply energy. You supply energy by using sharper gestures, by moving your hands, by facial expressions, by tone of voice, by emphasizing things, which means you're investing in the relationship. You're adding energy into the relationship. Subconsciously, people are going to take it as like, this person is investing in our relationship, so they invest something back. Usually it's attention.
That's good. Attention. That's really good, because you'll have their attention if they feel you're authentically giving to them. I like it. And Rahul, I want to flip this one to you now, coming back in here. So how can someone calibrate their energy? How do they know where they're at? So let's say, for example, someone who is gotten feedback that they need to change their energy. They don't know what that means. They don't know if they're maybe too monotone. They feel like they're high energy, low. Like, how do they calibrate where they're at now to know if they should improve more or slow down more?
That's a good question. One thing that you can do to build a self-awareness is to get feedback from other people. So you could ask your manager, you could ask your friends, okay, just gut feeling. Where would you, 0 is like, I'm very low energy. 10 is, wow, he's got a lot of energy. Sometimes maybe even he's got to tone it down a little bit. Where do I fall on that range? Generally speaking, in a conversation, especially in casual conversations, that will give you a good set point of where you normally are. And honestly, your friends, your spouse, or your significant other, they will have a good sense of this. Your manager would have a good sense of this because they're seeing you speak all the time. So that would be a good way to do it. Another way to do it is to record yourself and then to compare yourself to high energy, low energy people and see. However, I think getting it from other people, a couple people is better because you're filtering it through. If you watch yourself, you might be filtering through your own resistances and what we just mentioned earlier, where you go, "Oh my God, I look so high energy because you moved your hand like this," you know. And so because if your set point's down, or if you're used to being up here, one of my friends, he's high energy a lot of the time, and when he's just a little bit more relaxed, he's like, "Oh my God, I feel so boring." I'm like, "No, you just seem a little bit less crazy sometimes."
Yeah.
So it's actually a good thing. So there's not a good or bad for either side. You just want variation, and you want to be, as Peter mentioned, you want to be building that rapport. So I hope that answers your question around how do you gauge
yes.
it. I think getting feedback from people is really helpful.
I think that's a good way to do it, is get feedback from external sources, see what their thoughts are, and really calibrate it from that point. Peter, what are your thoughts on it?
Awesome. I would also add, judge it by the energy in the room. If you just gave an update or presentation and everybody is exhausted at the end, or they're like not paying attention or falling asleep, then you have to do something. You have to add energy. That should be a calibration. And we do this as trainers in our classes, right? At the end, like if Chaz, you say the training went well, and then we go, how do you know it went well? You'll be like, people are buzzing at the end. That's how you measure it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great, Peter. And one thing too on that is a nuanced point there. So how do they calibrate their energy to not come in too high? And then how do they know if it's low energy, they need to bring the energy up? Where's that line of matching the energy versus bringing the energy up?
I think the best thing to do is set the intention before you come to the presentation that you're going to inject energy. And imagine in your mind, like, if I inject energy into the meeting, how would the reactions and interactions be? And then let your subconscious mind determine what that is. And also another thing is the people, you've been to the meetings before. If typically and traditionally it's been low energy, you don't want to rock the boat. You just come in, okay, typically it's this level. I don't like it there. I want it to be this level. So you just come in with a little bit more energy and you focus on them and you use sharper gestures, just a little bit. And that should guide you, and that should create a feedback loop. If you see, oh, people are more responsive to you, then you keep it going. If the energy goes too high up and you start losing people, or you start feeling that you're not grounded, like you're wobbly, then you tone it down. And it's a continuous process. Typically what I do with trainings, I used to do trainings for the California CPA Foundation in my previous life. And I would do trainings for CPAs. These are people who are coming into a training for a conflict management training or negotiation training that I used to run. And they're just coming in. They want to learn something. They want to spend the day. And as you can tell, stereotypically, the accountant personality is a mellow personality. So imagine if I come in there and be like, yeah, let's do it. Like, nobody's going to take me seriously. So I would come in, I would just be a little bit higher energy than them. And then little by little, I gradually build my energy. By lunchtime, usually these CPAs will be climbing on the walls. That's how much energy I put in.
That's good. So calibrating.
And it's like calibrating, and it's almost like boiling a frog. So you have to do it slowly if your audience are not energy receptive yet.
That's good. Boiling a frog. I like it. And Rahul, I want to bring you back in to help continue boil that frog for people. So how can they get better at improving their calibration detector, if that makes sense? Like how do they improve that ability to get good at that, the feedback?
Yeah, so let's say, okay, let's take the two different scenarios. So let's say that you're more mellow, you're more calm, you want to up your meeting energy a little bit, you want to up your presentation energy a little bit, or maybe you're a team lead and you want to give energy out to the room a little bit more. Let's say you have a normal 1 hour meeting, and the way that you can calibrate this, Peter mentioned this already, is that at the end of the meeting, notice if people are chiming in a little bit more, they're brainstorming more, they're giving ideas, they seem engaged. That's one way to know that, okay, I upped it to a significant amount where it's noticeable, it's changing behavior in other people, not just in myself. So that's one way to know that you've given enough energy out. And that's how I gauge it. For example, in my weekly classes, I go in exactly like Peter said, with that intention. I'm going to give energy to the group. I know some of them are coming in. This is their first time coming to a public speaking class. They're nervous. And my job is to be warm, is to be friendly to them, but also to give them energy. Because when you're in that stressed, anxious state, you're not really full of energy, right? Usually it's like, oh, hey, how's it going? And they don't have so much to say. Now, sometimes if some people, you have to start reading this and empathize with them. Some people do come in and it's their first time, but they're not super nervous. They seem they're pretty good one-on-one. They're just chatting with me, and I'll just be at a normal, good energy level. Some other people are a little bit more tense, right? And I kind of ease into it a little bit, but I'm still very friendly just to keep giving them even more energy. And by the end, I know it's worked well if they are staying around, if they're smiling, that's always a good sign. So we all have these mechanisms of empathy. So being able to just detect what's their facial expression doing. Are they now on their phone at the end? And by the way, this applies for the second situation too, which is when you're trying to do higher energy. When you're trying to do lower energy, when you're normally really, really intense, right? So sometimes, I think I was mentioning this to you yesterday, is that when we were working with sales folks sometimes, and their sales manager says, hey, they're coming in real hot on the phone or on the meeting, and especially in a technical meeting or something like that, and they come in up here, and then it's the other person gets exhausted. We've all been in that kind of situation. The energy is too high. 5 minutes in, you're like, man, is this gonna be like this for an hour? I can't do that. So if people are looking a little bit awkward, if they're like cringing a little bit, I sometimes I can't hide my facial expression. If someone is doing it too much, that person, if they're really reading my body language, they can tell, like, oh, are they moving back from you? That's a big one. Are they slightly moving back? That means that they feel an energetic space is being encroached on, right? So that could mean you're not actually giving. Crossed arms, all these things are great. Yeah, like great is in good signals. Another is just then that tells you that if you're too high energy, that you're actually taking energy still, because now they're having to protect themselves from you, because you are not actually giving energy. You're just going into a mode where you think you're doing something. Oh, I need to be a certain way or something like that, and you're not really looking at and vibing with the room. Just as Peter said, you can. I think he has a story where he came in super high energy with the CPAs, accountants, and it was like awkward for a moment, right? But if he wasn't reading the room, this is what's called outward attention. We teach this in our impromptu class. You need to have outward attention on the room and not be speaking from up here, because if you're all up here and you're high energy, you're just gonna be like, wow, I'm so high energy, I'm awesome, I'm doing great. And then you're gonna look at the end of the meeting, and half the people have left the room. Or they're like, they're checked out somewhere else because it's too much for them.
Yeah, I think one key point too is anxiety. Peter, I want to bring you back in here. One key point too is the anxiety that may be behind that's driving people to be high energy. And they're so high energy because they feel so anxious, but they feel like they're giving a lot, but really they're just transferring their anxiety. What's your thoughts on that, Peter? How do people be aware of that? What do people do about that?
That's the difference between grounded energy and ungrounded energy. If it's just a reaction, you're trying to offload your anxiety onto your audience, that's when it becomes a problem. So you definitely don't want to do that. And before I go on, I just want to say a disclaimer. No frogs were hurt during this video.
No animals were harmed in the making of this innocent
podcast.
Right,
that's right. Yeah, and I also want to add, like, I think this is now, most people now get nervous. Like, they say, Well, if I want to inject energy, do I have to be like this person that talks with their hands and facial expressions? And that's not the case. That's not the case. It depends on your personality. For example, energy can be focused like a laser, or it can be broad like a flashlight. So this energy is broad. However, you can be intense. That's focused energy like a laser. And you want to vary your response. If you're talking about something that's serious, like improving revenue, cutting costs, sexual harassment in the company, you want to bring in serious, focused energy. Make sense? And when you're talking about a lighter topic, maybe it's broader, so you can reach more people. And there are ways to inject energy into the room, other than just gestures, and maybe we can talk about that as well.
Sure. Well, that's really terrific, Peter. And we are coming on the time where we want to start wrapping things up. So I think that's great. I want to bring Rahul back in for this one and just have you guys each leave the group here. Just one take-home framework, one technique that they can do, that they can apply immediately so they can start improving. So Rahul, just sharing one framework, one technique.
Yes, work on your pacing. That is huge. So take a book and open up a page. This is a homework exercise that Peter gave me a long time ago. Read a sentence really fast. Then the next sentence, read extremely slow. And pause in between and be methodical. And then go really, really fast again and read the sentence as fast as you can. And that's going to help you too, because injecting a little bit of energy, and use this as an exercise and let it just allow you to see what it feels like to change your pace. That's a really useful exercise, because oftentimes when I'm working with clients, we have to increase their pace a little bit to increase their energy. However, they shouldn't lose their pausing. So for some of you out there that you already struggle with speaking too fast, then don't do the speaking too fast one. Only work on speaking slower for now, and then you can work on your variation. Otherwise, you're going to start speaking through the roof. It's going to be too fast.
And when they are speaking slowly, that's a great exercise. And when they are speaking slowly, should they be okay with silence in between their words?
Absolutely. You should be, some of my clients will say, you should be listening in this call right now. You should be listening for silence between us, in between your words. If you're using ums and fillers or trying to speed up, things like that, especially when Peter mentioned, serious topics and things like that. Actually, when you're uncomfortable with it and you're really trying to make a point, that's when we've seen the habit of trying to breeze through it. And then that could come across really incorrectly from what you want. It might make it seem like you're not taking it seriously. Like, oh, you just want to, get it over with. Instead, you actually need to be slowing down, and get a little more intense, and say, hey, this is a really serious topic. With your energy, right? This serious topic, I want to slow down and acknowledge it, and then we need to move forward.
That's great. And I think one point to mention there too is that energy, it may be uncomfortable, right? Anxiety, hard conversations, difficult talks, those, you can feel it just rising up in you. And if you're not used to just sitting with that uncomfortable energy, you may rush through it. You may talk too quickly, let the anxiety come out, or you may use filler words. So I think being comfortable with the uncomfortable is a start to really all of this. But I love that exercise too, just reading through the book and the pacing difference. Peter, what is a take-home framework technique you would like to leave with them?
Awesome. I'll give you two. I'll give you two ways to inject energy other than using gestures or vocal variety or pausing. One way is to just lean in, get closer, even in a virtual setting. That adds energy. Make sense? In a non-virtual setting, it's the same thing. Just lean and move towards a person. The second technique is use your sense of humor. We all have it. You just have to uncover it. Back then, when I was an engineer, I thought I'm not a good storyteller. I'm not good at humor. And later, I discovered that I was completely wrong. I'm good at both. I just need to uncover it. So use your sense of humor.
Start your meetings over here.
That's right. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today. My name is Chaz. You got Peter. You got Rahul. Be sure to find us next time. Bye, guys.
All right.